Hello, and welcome to In Focus. Today we are talking about how Russia is losing around 30,000 men a month and paying millions of rubles a head to replace them, and Putin still will not say the word mobilization. Meanwhile, the Kremlin is already working on its next target, Moldova. Russia had record losses in July, about 1,000 new recruits signed a day, and quotas handed down to governors who have to pay for it themselves. Men are pulled off the street and pressured into contracts, because announcing a real draft before September's elections is a risk the Kremlin will not take.
Putin is avoiding a formal declaration of full-scale mobilization due to high political and social risks, preferring instead to rely on covert recruitment and cash incentives for contract soldiers. The Guardian reports that the Russian army is losing around 30,000 people every month. According to the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine, Russia's losses in July reached a record level, more than 42,000 servicemen. To make up for this colossal toll, regional authorities are being forced to continuously supply new fighters, but the flow of volunteers is drying up. Finding people willing to risk their lives for Putin's imperial ambitions is becoming harder and harder, even in exchange for substantial payments.
Moscow, meanwhile, now recruits roughly 1,000 soldiers a day, according to calculations by Janis Klug, a Russia expert at the German Institute for International and Security Affairs, which means most new recruits are used to replenish depleted units rather than expand Russia's offensive capacity, from a publication by The Guardian.
Despite the personnel shortage, the Kremlin has not yet made a final decision on forced mass mobilization. Instead, officials are skillfully exploiting fear of it. Men are being deliberately intimidated with the threat of imminent call-up in order to pressure them into signing a contract voluntarily. The recruiter's message is simple: mobilization is inevitable, so it's better to join the army now and get a multi-million ruble payout than to end up at the front for free tomorrow.
At the same time, forced recruitment of men from disadvantaged groups has intensified in Russian regions. They are caught on the streets during raids and forced to sign contracts with the Ministry of Defense. Such incidents are occurring across Russia, but the situation is most acute in Penza region, where local residents have already started forming groups to resist the recruiters. Similar cases have been recorded in Omsk, Ulyanovsk, and other regions. From a publication by the Moscow Times.
The Kremlin and Russia's Ministry of Defense have set a strict quota for regional authorities to recruit 409,000 contract soldiers. The Financial Times notes that Moscow is increasing pressure on governors, trying at all costs to avoid declaring an official second wave of mobilization.
What's more, the regions have to pay for all of this, organize it, and preferably not publicly call it mobilization, even though it was Putin himself who signed the order for this very mobilization. And so, to get ahead of talk that mobilization will happen right after the elections, they are already gradually rolling it out. As we've seen, this happened in Penza, in Kirov region, and in a number of republics in the North Caucasus. Recruitment officers and other security personnel catching people on the streets there.
According to a statement by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Russia is preparing a new so-called rapid mobilization for fall 2026. The launch of the campaign is expected to take place immediately after the sham elections to the Russian State Duma in September. Putin is betting on the war, ramping up production of ballistic missiles to attack Ukraine's energy infrastructure during the autumn-winter season. Russia has also received ballistic missiles from North Korea and is planning to deploy another contingent of North Korean troops.
Right now, Putin thinks that additional mobilization and bringing in troops from North Korea will let him drag out this war and increase Russian assault activity, but we are preparing for our own active operations.
Over the course of the full-scale invasion, Russia has directly spent more than $450 billion from its budget, funneling nearly every other ruble into the military while cutting funding for schools, hospitals, and roads. Because of the war, Russia has lost hundreds of billions of dollars and has faced its most severe economic setback in decades. Reported by Victoria Chistukhina, UATV News.
That is the army Moscow plans to use next door. A New York Times investigation puts Moldova second on the Kremlin's list. Training camps abroad, paid activists, even recruited priests. The Russian force in Transnistria turns out to be a fraction of its paper strength, and Chisinau's answer has been to move closer to Kyiv.
Russia sees Moldova as a potential launch pad for exerting pressure on Europe, according to an investigation by the New York Times. To achieve this, the Kremlin is trying to destabilize Moldova's domestic political situation. Training camps for the GRU were reportedly set up in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, and near Moscow. There, pro-Russian Moldovan activists were trained with the aim of destabilizing Moldova and disrupting the 2025 parliamentary elections. Priests were also recruited as part of the campaign. In exchange for financial rewards, they were expected to urge their parishioners to vote against Moldova joining the European Union.
According to Western intelligence officials, the Kremlin's top priority is the conquest of Ukraine, followed by establishing control over Moldova. Moldova would become an ideal launchpad for further aggression against both Ukraine and the West. Putin still hopes to seize a strip of territory in southern Ukraine to create a land corridor linking Russia with Moldova, from the New York Times report.
Russia wants to use Moldova as a base for sabotage operations, including against Ukraine, said Moldovan presidential advisor on national security and defense Stanislav Secrieru. The operational group of Russian troops is stationed in the Russian-occupied region of Transnistria. On paper, it numbers around 1,500 troops, but in reality, there are only about 300, according to Moldovan Foreign Minister Mihai Popșoi. Such a force would not be enough to launch a full-scale military aggression, but Moscow still has room to stage provocations, experts say.
Russia actually has no arguments, especially when it comes to Moldova and Transnistria. It is important to understand that most residents of Transnistria hold Moldovan passports and consider themselves Europeans. In reality, nobody there is preparing to take action. It simply remains an area outside the government's control, one that is convenient for Russia to use for sabotage.
Moldova is also periodically affected by drone attacks during Russian strikes on southern Ukraine. On August 9th, a drone belonging to the aggressor state crashed near the village of Krokmaz. Moldovan President Maia Sandu said the incident was a direct consequence of the war launched by Moscow, which poses a threat to everyone. Moldova's defense ministry acknowledged that Chisinau is not yet fully prepared for such incidents.
Based on the preliminary analysis, this was a Russian drone equipped with an engine representing a more advanced model than all the others that have previously landed or exploded on the territory of the Republic of Moldova. All the purchases we are making within the allocated budget, and I want to stress that this is the smallest military budget in Europe, are not enough to address all the challenges and keep pace with the growing threats.
Nevertheless, Chisinau is helping Ukraine deal with the consequences of Russia's ongoing attacks. By the end of 2026, Moldova will facilitate the transit of up to 600,000 tons of Ukrainian agricultural products by rail, Moldovan Prime Minister Vasile Tofan said. Ukraine's foreign ministry thanked the Moldovan government for its assistance with exports.
As Russia deliberately targets Ukrainian ports and trade routes, alternative export routes are vital to Ukraine's resilience and global food security. Moldova's decision to facilitate the transit of Ukrainian agricultural products through the Solidarity corridors is an important and timely contribution. We highly appreciate this practical support and Moldova's genuine solidarity with Ukraine. Andriy Sibiha, Acting Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine on X social media.
The stronger and more independent the former Soviet republics become, the harder it will be for Putin to seize control of them, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said. According to him, Ukraine plays a key role in the region. That is why post-Soviet states should strengthen their ties with Kyiv in order to counter Moscow. Reported by Andriy Dimitrenko, UATV News.
Putin's problem is not maps. It is men, money, and neighbors who no longer buy the story. Every state on Russia's border that grows stronger is one less opening for Moscow, and Kyiv is a large part of the reason they are growing stronger. Thank you for watching In Focus. If you enjoyed this episode, then make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We will see you in the next one.